This is week 3 of our Exiles series, and something I really want as I want you to see how it's building. And it really starts with us embracing this tag as this truth of being exiles. Because if we don't believe we're exiles, we're going to expect people to treat us like we're not. And then when we get treated like exiles, it's going to really anger us. And it might cause us to even shut down and say, oh man, the world's against me. What am I going to do? But if I realize I'm just passing through, I would almost expect that there's going to be sometimes really bad treatment of Christians and maybe even of me. So it's important to see that, whether you feel that persecution or not, because as I said last week, we are not home yet, are we? We're not in heaven. That is our home. We await our Savior to come from there, take us home. But we're living in the time between now and then. And that time between now and then, we do that as sojourners, as exiles. We are in the world, but not of the world. Okay? And what goes right along with that was what we talked about last week, where Peter called us to fear God. So to have this healthy respect, because when we see who God is, in all of his fullness, the creator, the one who loves us, the one who sent Jesus to die for us, the response should be like, whoa, and not, don't we sometimes treat God that way? Maybe I'll go to church, maybe I won't, maybe I'll pray, maybe I won't, maybe I'll read my Bible, maybe I won't. The world's looking, the world's seeing. But I'm going to go in somebody's face about how great Jesus is, but then I don't really have time for him. That's not going to work. It's going to be a little bit of a disconnect there. But so we need both of those. And the world's going to see that and go, man, their God is pretty amazing. How incredible. And they embrace their role. The world presses them and they just love and they care and they're going all in when it comes to this mission. Now, today, as you see up there, it says, have respect for all. Now, it would be great if all meant all people who respected us. I would love that. How cool would that be? Everybody they heard you were a Christian, high fives all around. How awesome, right? They know the chorus, how great is our God, right? And you go to you go anywhere and everybody's just like, yeah, they're singing that with me. But much more difficult to have respect, to honor people who would mock us, who would misrepresent who we are. It happens in our world today, doesn't it? Not everybody says, yeah, I appreciate your sticking by, right, the rights of the unborn, let's say, for just to pick one very uncomfortable issue to talk about, for example. All right? We believe a certain thing, but the world's like, not so much. Right? And I've always struggled with this. And I threw these pictures up here because this is the truth and the proof that we need Jesus to do this. To have respect for people who don't have respect for us. To not like people. So there's me. The guy in the white shirt is, probably, that's about as smiley as I got back then. Angry at the world. Really felt everyone was against me because, I would go into anywhere, and people would judge me. It was just the way it was. And it didn't matter what age they were. I was problem. I was trouble. Hide everything because he's going to probably steal it. You know what I mean? And I'd get pulled over all the time, car searched, all kinds of things that would happen. And I'd be like, man, the world's against me. The man's against me. And I had really bad words for that. I can't say in church. It was just really bad. It was dark. But then God gets a hold of me. The word gets in there, and it's like, yeah, Jesus died for you, and I believe that was for me. And so you notice the hair doesn't change. In fact, the hair is probably bigger, right? Post Jesus, after Christ, having the Holy Spirit, it's. Right, but the smile is not what I want you to focus on, because you can't see the anger inside me in the early one, but you can't see the faith of Jesus and in Jesus that's in that after Christ picture. Right, because that guy still caught all kinds of grief. Trust me. That guy still got weird looks. That guy still did that. But what I realized was, I look that way. Like the world doesn't like people that look that way. And if I want to look that way, I got to deal with it. In fact, when I would get pulled over, I remember thanking police officers. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go home and read my Bible. All right? And I would tell them that would blow their mind. Because they thought they had like a dude with like a warrant for his arrest, and right? Because they would throw 4 squad cars at me, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to church later. And it was just like, and I would thank them. I say, thank you. I remember very distinctly telling this one officer, thank you guys, because you're here to protect me, and probably protect people who look like me. And he kind of chuckled. But I meant it. Because I realized Christ is in control. God's got me. He loves me. And all of that anger got me nowhere. All of that anger, it just made me see people as the enemy, as people to go to war with, as everybody who's against me. And the reality that God taught me and continues to teach me, and I still struggle with this today. Right? I'm not happy about having to pay taxes. I'm not happy about having to obey the speed limit all the time. Let me tell you, it's a Herculean effort for me, for this foot right here, this guy right here, for this one to not go over 40 as I go between here and like the Wawa. That whole stretch, 35 miles an hour. Are you kidding me? And it's hard. I have to be like, no, Fred, back off. That's there, and I know why it's there, because there's people walking at the park. They're walking across. And if I'm screaming through there at 50, or 45 even, I'm going to hit somebody. So that stuff is there for a good reason. It's not just there to rain on my parade, as if the powers that be have a meeting once a month and they're like, all right, well, how do we make Fred Hoover's life really difficult? Like, I don't matter that much for them to do that. See, but it took Jesus to get into my heart for me to realize that. That's what it was. And even if everybody's against me, the one that matters, right? The one that we were talking about last week, who I have respect for more than anyone else, he sees me for who I am and loves me and died for me. That changes everything. I don't need to judge anyone now. I don't need to look down on anybody now, right? And now I can show the world the hope that I have. And that's where Peter's trying to get at. And that's what difference will be made. Because we're living in a world where we're fighting. I was talking with the confirmation class right before this. And I'll ask you guys the same question. Some of them are here. But can you remember a day, any day, in the in recent memory, where you didn't experience or hear about how divided the world is? About how much hatred and bitterness and right? It's not always people hating the same people. They mix it up. Trust me. They keep it, so, the news guys have to have something to write about. I was thinking about that this morning. What would they do? They'd be out of a job if everything was just wonderful and everybody was holding hands and loving life. But it's daily. And it grinds us down. Even as God's people. And what Peter is saying is, look, not much has changed. We have a way of thinking, again, that it's just our issues, just our world. When Peter wrote this epistle, right, when he wrote this letter to these people, they were not living it up. They did not have preferred status in the Roman Empire. They were enemies of the state, in fact. They were, right, if they were put in jail for doing what I am doing right now. In fact, for doing it in quiet, in secret, they would get caught. They would look at what we get to do. We get to put this on right now we're on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. We're able to do that, at least for now. And I'll push it as long as we can do it. They shut us down, guess what? We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to find a way, because it's what we do. But that's so important for you to see. That when in 1 Peter chapter 2, In verse 11, when he says, beloved, I urge you, and there it is again, sojourners and exiles, he's urging us. So, and I love that word because it's such a, there's this urgency. There's this, like, man, we gotta get with this right now. We gotta stop waiting on this, but we've gotta see ourselves, again, as just passing through. I am but a stranger here. Heaven is my home. So what do? Well, we abstain, for one thing, from the passions of the flesh. We still got a war within us. In fact, he says they wage war against your soul. What if we put even a little bit of the passion and the energy that we put into fighting each other into fighting sin in our hearts? Looking like going, oh man, I'm getting judgy here. And you can feel when you're getting judgy, right? You know. What if you really went to war with that? Man, I'm being so selfish right now. I want to go first. I'm going to go. I'm going to take this. Or I'm going to say this. Because they're so mean. I get to say this. What if I went to war with that? Because Peter's saying, like, those things are warring against you, whether you like it or not. Right? It's sending nuclear attacks at you every day to try to get you to hate and to be angry and to be bitter and to be resentful, right? And to be me 30, 40 years ago. I don't even know how long ago it is. I'm not going to do the math, but it was a long time ago. Still got to fight that. He's saying that's what we do. That's what we do as soldiers. We are exiles. We are not, right? We're not locals, if you will, when it comes to what goes on and what we do. We're going to war from those things. We're going to abstain from them. We're going to say no to them. In fact, we're going to keep our conduct among those who are Gentiles. Gentiles is just a code word for people who are not Jewish. They're not religious. They don't believe in God. So when I do life with them, my life's going to be honorable. So you would look at it and go, man, that's the right way to live. That person goes 55 where he's supposed to, right? He pays his taxes like he's supposed to. He is like, when somebody comes at him on Facebook, man, he waits and he pauses and he's trying to be as positive as he can. Now he sticks up for the truth, but does it in such a way that you go, wow, I got to think about that. Doesn't stir things up, doesn't, right? And all of that. And he says this because they're good. He says, notice he didn't say if they speak against you as evildoers. He goes, when they speak against you as evildoers. Why would he phrase it that way? Because that's what they were doing. You know your history. Who got blamed for burning down Rome? Christians did. Look at what they do. They're enemies of the state. When they crucified Christ, remember during that, and it's one of the most, I don't know if ironic is the word, but when the crowd is there and they're going to release Barabbas, right? Herod's like, come on, Barabbas, killer, right? Murderer, let him go. Ha ha, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let him go. He's the guy. He's the bad guy. Let the bad guy, right? Let's crucify him. Let's let this Jesus, right? Perfect. I don't see anything wrong with him. Let's let him go. Wink, wink. And they choose, right? They choose. And they say, remember what they said? They said, this Jesus, he calls himself a king. And we have no other king but who? Caesar. They hated Caesar. They hated Caesar. See, that's how warped things can get. And listen, if they treated the Lord of the universe that way, what makes me think I'm going to have a cakewalk? Because I do. I think I should. I think I should have no one should ever raise an eyebrow or consider me weird or any of that. But it will. And they're going to call us wrong. They're going to say, you're an enemy. You don't like people. You hate people. You want to see people suffer. And that's why you're against this. Or that's why you're for this. And you're hearing it now in our world. We should live in such a way that they look at that and man, it is so clear how much of a lie it is. And they're going to see those good things, and what they're going to wind up doing is, listen, they will have, you should live a life that is so overwhelmingly saturated with God and His love and what you're doing that they have no recourse or no other option but to glorify God on the day of visitation. Could you imagine that? When all is said and done, they're before the throne, they're like, yeah, that was God glorifying stuff right there. And shame on me. Because it all comes out, doesn't it? That's the point. How are we going to live? So be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution. Notice, that's whose sake. It's not for their sake. I'm not asking you to like politically what's going on, socially what's going on in the world at all. But be subject to them. In other words, I'm not above them. And it's for the Lord's sake because I want my life to preach Christ. I want my very life to be that message of who He is and what He is about. It doesn't matter what it is. So I'm going to look at the police officers that are doing their thing, governmental people. I'm going to be subject for the Lord's sake to them. Whether it be to the emperor as supreme, I can't imagine that those were easy words for Peter to write. Could you? The emperor was there to kill him. Right? It wasn't like they were going to just like put them in Facebook jail or, oh my goodness, my video got flagged on YouTube. Right? We go insane with that kind of stuff. For them, they're going to get killed. They're going to get jailed. They're going to lose their job. They're going to lose their ability to work in an area because of their faith, simply because they're telling people about Jesus. That was their day in and day out reality, and He is saying, be subject to them. Now, here's the thing. You go in the book of Acts, and Jesus helps us out too. What did He say? Render to Caesar what's Caesar's. Okay? So if this coin is His, let Him have it. Who cares? Right? But God, we got to remember, we focus on the Caesar part of that, don't we? We should but give God what God is supposed to get. See, that's why they marveled at Him when Jesus said that. Could you imagine? Because they thought if He says, no, don't pay taxes, they got Him. And if He says, yeah, pay taxes, then, right? So He's either an enemy of Caesar or an enemy of the church or, the temple, the faith. He goes, you got, in this life, guys, you know it, you've got this a responsibility. And I'll talk to you guys as Americans, like we're in. We're in. I love you. I love all the people around us. And so that's why I pay taxes, right? And I guess I kind of have to, I suppose, right? It's kind of a law, I think, sort of, maybe. I don't know. Let's just go for that. Let's go with that. Because they'll arrest me if I don't pay them. But it provides money for your for schools, like for my kids and your kids and all the kids, right? And there's roads we can drive on that are, for the most part, pretty good. A couple potholes here and there we got to work on. And the thing you're going to realize, you got to see, is back then, or even up till now, is any of it ever been perfect? No. I think you can look at every part of human history. There wasn't ever a land where there was just perfect roads everywhere and perfect, infrastructure, and every election was perfect, and every thing was just and proper and right. It's never been that way on man's watch. Did you see the Exodus reading from where Moses, that had to really, chafe, right? His father-in-law is like, hey, dude, what are you doing? You're working yourself to the ground, right? Your father-in-law like, okay, yeah, hey, Dad, what's up? You need to have other guys. You need to have people. That's the point. They're there, best case scenario, as governors that are sent by God Himself to punish evil people and praise those who do good. For this is the will of God. He says that by doing good, you should put to silence the ignorance of foolish people. Live as people who are free. Don't use that freedom as a cover-up for evil, as a cover-up, as an excuse to be nasty, mean, vindictive, judgmental, burn people down, burn things down, do bad things. Don't go, well, gee, it's a righteous cause. Pfft, I don't think so. Listen, we all have our opinions. We have things that we don't like. I'm right there with you. Trust me, I'm not here to be political. I'm not up here to say this or that. But I am here to say that, again, for the last, 30, 40 years that I can remember, there's been a whole group that hates the guy in charge and another group that loves him. And then that flips when that guy goes out. You know what I mean? And so it's been like, okay, it's been the same over and over and over and over again. What hasn't changed is Christ on his throne, in charge, loving us, being there for us. So I'm going to live in that freedom that I have as God's people. Now, I was going to get to the book of Acts thing, and I didn't get to it. I'm going to get back. So my brain's getting back on track here. They were arrested, and they were told not to preach Christ. But what did they do? When did they say that we will stop obeying man? Because this whole time I'm preaching, you're probably like, but what about when the government's doing something evil? What do we do? What do we do? What do you think? This could be interactive. We could get some feedback from you. We still subject ourselves. But the people of God back in those days, when they were arrested for doing what I'm doing, the government said, no, we're going to release you, but you cannot preach Christ anymore. What did they say? Guys, like respectfully, I can't do it. I can't. That's who they were. Listen, that's who we are. That's the point. You're asking me to not live, because to live is Christ, to die is gain. Paul talks about being compelled to preach Christ. Woe to me if I don't do it. It's like breathing to him. That's what it should be for us. And so it'll be pretty apparent when the government goes too far. And they say, no, you can't do this. We have to say, and we say it respectfully, and this is the point. We say it with all, right? We might even use those words, with all due respect. I can't go with you. There's going to be times. There have been times historically throughout the history of the church where the church has said, I'm with you, man. I'm gonna do all these things. I'm gonna be the best citizen you've ever seen. Put the plaque up, right, with my name on it, my face on it. Citizen of the year, right? Fred Hoover. I'm praying. I'm shooting for that. I don't think a plaque exists like that, but we should add that. Maybe we give awards. But I'm not playing for the plaque. Doing it for the Lord's sake. Because our names are written in the book of life. We've been given this hope. We've been given this freedom. I'm not going to use that freedom for evil. Because it's evil. I'm going to have nothing new, right? I'm going to abstain from those things. I'm going to run from those things. I'm going to say no to those things. So if the world's calling me to say what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right, I got to say no. I can't. I got to look at what he's saying. I always try to go back because everybody's got an opinion. You can twist things. You can twist all of it, but not the word. It's clear. It's clear. I am called to live. Listen, here it is. As people who are free. Again, we don't use that for as a cover up for evil, but we live as servants of God. When is the last time when somebody kind of questions something, a tweet maybe, they question something on Snapchat or whatever social media thing, or even just a comment. You went to get your hair cut and you just said something about whatever hot button issue is, and somebody come back at you. When's the last time you just paused and said, Lord, give me the words? Do you do that? Do you say, Lord, I'm not going to say anything right now. I'm going to wait. I'm telling you, I would be in Facebook jail. I'd be a lifelong offender. I would never, if I didn't go with my, it's been a while since I brought it. I'm going to bring it up again. The 24-hour rule. My wife knows what this is. I utilize her to help me to make sure I don't violate it. And it's like getting a gun. You need a 24-hour waiting period. I try to have a 24-hour waiting period for any time I respond to anything but a cat video or a guitar video. Cat, dog videos, even a hamster video maybe. I don't know why anybody would post that. But and the point is, your first reaction, is it ever a good one? Your first reaction is just to crush, kill, and destroy. burn that person. Whoa, how dare they? And a lot of times, there's been time, I can remember, I'll show it to my wife and I'll be like, oh, look at this. Can you believe this guy? Right? That's the attitude we get. That's not God-driven. That's me-driven. I want to be right. I want to have my opinion get across. I want people to know like who I stand for and what I stand for. But it's supposed to be for the sake of the Lord. It's supposed to be for His sake, for what He wants. And my wife will often ask the incredibly wise question, did you read it all? And I'll be like, well, I didn't like this part and that part. Well, but they kind of explain themselves in this other two parts. And then if I read it and I give myself that day to sort of, marinate on it and just like relax a little bit, ask God, pray, I often, if nothing else, I stop seeing the target on that other person. If we could just do that, if I could stop seeing the target, right, and have my finger on the trigger, I'm just going to blow that person away. With my words, with my actions. God's saying, look at this. There's these things, these passions warring against you, warring against me. This is what we need to hear. Lord, give me your will. I want to do things your way. I want to see things your way. Not just me, but I want to see the people around me in that way. And that is really, really difficult. That's one of the reasons why we need the church and we need each other. Man, we need to fight. And the biggest thing is to fight because I can sometimes be the biggest problem. We can be sometimes the biggest problem. Or we could be the greatest solution ever. As the people of God, standing as one, saying, we believe in Christ. We believe what He did. We are still trying to wrap our minds around how great Easter was. Just 2 weeks ago, man, He is alive. He has risen. He has risen indeed. Hallelujah. That is who we are. That's what I want us to be about. Every word, I want it to be soaked with that reality, soaked with that truth. And this is so difficult because, again, we're dealing with this is targeted at people who do not like us and want to hurt us. How do we respond? We take it to God. How do we respond? We say, Lord, I need you to change my heart. There's anger in there. There's hostility in there. There's rage in there. And I need you to take it. I need to be reminded that I'm forgiven. I need to be reminded that I'm free and that I'm in exile. I'm going to end on this because when you think about the last time you went and visited somewhere, like when you go on vacation, that'd be a great example. You often, and let's say, I'll set the parameters for your thought process. You ready? Go on vacation. You don't own the house that you're going to. It's a beautiful house. It's a great house. It's cool. Maybe not how you would have decorated, but it's cool. If you're bringing little kids especially, what's the first thing you tell them? Even before you leave the house. What's rule number 1? You don't break everything. Don't touch anything. Right? Because why? It's not yours. It's not yours. I'd be willing to bet you treat that place better than your own house. Way more respect. And even when you're out in that community, you realize I'm not part of that community. So what, am I going to go in there and cause civil unrest and then go back home? How weird would that be? Yeah, I'm going to go down to Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I'm going to get all kinds of people mad. I'm going to go to their government, and then I'm going to go home. No, I don't live there. I don't walk in their shoes every day. Why would I do that? I'm going to show love and respect. I'm representing Philly. I'm representing us. See, that's the point. We're part of something bigger. And when we've got to treat our world that way. Our online world, our in-person world, our everyday world. Because I want people to see us and see Jesus. I want them to see us, see how awesome He is and how amazing He is. Think of your life like a sermon. What's it preaching? What's every word on your Insta or on your, what is that saying? Again, it may not be something everyone's going to like. That's okay. But is it showing honor, respect for the people around us? Because that's how God treats us. That's how He loves us. In His name, amen. And let's